Let's start with breaking news for you this hour, because Syria's foreign ministry has urged the UN to condemn Thursday's US-led coalition airstrikes, which it says killed 45 civilians and injured another 50. In a letter sent to the United Nations, the Syrian foreign ministry compared the bombings to atrocities committed by Islamic State terrorists. The raids came less than 2 weeks after another coalition airstrike had killed dozens of civilians. RT's correspondent Gani Chichikan has more.
U.S. Central Command said late on Thursday it had, I'm quoting here, initiated an assessment following internal operational reporting that a strike today near Manbij, Syria, may have resulted in civilian casualties, end quote. Again, this is U.S. reaction to the latest strike on Thursday. On Wednesday, the U.S. said there was sufficient credible evidence of civilian deaths in another strike, which the U.S. carried out last Monday, also near the city of Manbij. It reportedly killed dozens. So the U.S. is now investigating civilian casualties in a number of U.S. strikes in Syria that happened in less than 2 weeks. Last week, when I asked the State Department whether the U.S. thought the strike in Manbij last Monday was a mistake, State Department's John Kirby seemed visibly irritated with my question.
The U.S. strike that reportedly killed around 20 civilians in the ISIL-held city of Manbij in Syria, was it a mistake on Monday?
That's another great accusatory question you've asked here. No other military works as hard as ours. None. No other military in the world to prevent civilian casualties. And when they happen, again, I'll say it again because apparently it didn't sink in the first time. When it happens, we investigate it fully and completely. And then we're transparent about it. And then we take the lessons learned and we try to prevent it from happening again. Just to be clear, one is one too many.
While State Department's John Kirby says the U.S. views one civilian casualty as too many, we see reports from Syria saying U.S. strikes killed dozens. The U.S. acknowledges that the strikes happened. It is now assessing how many civilians it estimates may have died in those strikes.
It's not the first time that US airstrikes have been condemned for high collateral damage. Back in January, reports claimed that the American military was willing to accept civilian deaths in certain cases.
One official telling CNN the U.S. was willing to risk up to 50 civilian casualties in this area to get the building, to destroy the building.
Well, one particular case was an ISIL cash stockpile in Iraq. Back then, US officials said that millions of dollars were destroyed. The exact amount is unknown. Following reports of the Pentagon's willingness to risk civilian lives, a State Department spokesperson admitted that there was a certain, quote, calculus, without giving further details.
As a calculus, so a particularly important target, you'd be prepared to tolerate a greater number of civilian casualties.
Again, I'm not going to give you a formula for that. I think,
no, but
I mean, obviously.
You used the word calculus. I'm just trying to.
No, I understand that.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to be facetious at all. I'm just trying to say that these are very difficult processes and very difficult decisions to make. And obviously, we're dealing with high-value targets. But I just would say that that's always part of our calculus.
OK, I can cross live now to speak to Abayomi Azikiwe, who's editor of the Pan-African Newswire. Abayomi, welcome. Syria wants the UN to condemn the US coalition airstrikes. Do you think that's likely to happen, though?
Hopefully there will be some action taken by the United Nations Security Council in response to the letter that was written by their representative at the United Nations in New York. But this is not the first time such an incident has occurred. The major problem that the United States has in carrying out these airstrikes and other operations in Syria is that they're not working with the Syrian government in Damascus. They do not recognize the Syrian government of President Bashar al-Assad. They have continued to state that his government is not legitimate, that it should step down, and that the departure of President Assad is a prerequisite to any type of stable peace agreement inside of Syria. This is totally unacceptable as far as the Syrian government is concerned, and as well as its allies. So as long as they continue to not work with the Syrian government, we're going to see more and more of these attacks that result in civilian casualties.
Now, this isn't the only attack that's created these kind of civilian casualties. On 19th of July, US airstrikes in pretty much the same area also reportedly killed a large number of civilians. The US and Russian ambassadors have both given statements on that this week. We can have a quick listen.
The United States will carefully and thoroughly review any and all credible information, including information from organizations within Syria that document harm to civilians and that are also trying now to investigate these events.
I was quite surprised by my American colleague's answer to a question on mass civilian deaths in northern Syria. She said the investigation will be based on information from Syrian civil society groups. So far, it seems that there are no American drones, no special operatives of the US or its allies in Syria, and no videos of airstrikes, even though all modern bombers capture videos when they conduct strikes. I don't want to believe that the military state of the US-led coalition is that bad. This reference to civil society groups makes me think that we will never know the truth, as everything will be swept under the carpet.
Well, that's pretty much the phrase that's the key to that there. Vitaly Churkin using swept under the carpet. Do you think that there's anything to that? Is Washington perhaps holding back any information?
They always do. This is a pattern in Syria, as well as other geopolitical regions where the United States is involved in aggressive military operations. Syrian government never invited the United States to bomb any of its territory. The involvement of Russia in Syria was at the request of the government of President Bashar al-Assad. These incidents occur on a regular basis, and nothing is ever done about it. We hear when it is exposed that there's going to be an investigation, but it is very rare to hear anything about any disciplinary activity being carried out against these U.S. soldiers and officers and commanders who are ordering these airstrikes. I mean, these are innocent people who are being killed, injured, and also being displaced, adding to the almost 11 million Syrians and others who live in Syria who have been displaced over the last 5 years as a result of this war. This disaster in Syria lays right at the feet of the United States and its allies in the region. They have no end game in this entire process. If you look at the Democratic National Convention that took place earlier this week, the militarism, the challenges to various geopolitical entities around the world was actually startling. It was quite striking that they were actually calling for more military aggression on the part of the United States against its so-called enemies without even defining why Syria and other governments and political forces internationally are actually enemies of the United States.
OK, our guest is Abayomi Azikiwe, editor of the Pan-African Newswire, there with his thoughts. Many thanks.